All right, everybody. So I am here with Tyler Walker and DJ Bridwell, who are signed to the label with me, and they are also country artists. And I thought today would be a fun day to just kind of introduce you to them, and then we can talk a little bit about what it's like being a signed artist, what it's like being at Third and James, and then, what it's been like with COVID. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little bit. We'll start with Tyler because he's in the corner right here, and we'll go from there.
So I have been in the Colorado music scene for about 10, 11 years. Was the front man for the Tyler Walker Band. We've played all along the Front Range, and I lived out in Nashville before moving to Colorado, doing the singer-songwriter thing out there. Released an EP short after moving to Colorado, and released a small EP with the Tyler Walker Band as well, and then got signed to Third and James as a solo artist early in 2020. So thank you for having me.
Of course. And Josh saw Tyler when I opened up for him at the Buffalo Rose, and then it was like instant connection. Like we all just loved each other. So that was really cool doing a show together.
Yeah.
And then you being signed like right after.
Yeah. No, that was a lot of fun. Yeah. And I had heard of you through, I don't remember, I think through a YouTube video of you doing the national anthem. But I wasn't super familiar with Third and James. And so I got to talk to Josh before the show and then after the show. And then, yeah, we kind of just kept communication going. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah. The rest is history.
Yeah. And then we have DJ down here, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself.
I can't tell you a little bit about myself. There's too much to explain, even in a little bit. But I'm that small town Nebraska boy writing about real life stuff. Met all of you guys. Obviously, Tyler, I've known you the longest, and it's been about 3 years now, I think, since we officially met.
Yeah.
At the awards show and whatnot, but never ever had any sort of any sort of bad feelings other than a camaraderie between us, man. And I appreciate knowing you, as well as Kayla. Obviously, I met you through the whole Third and James signing deal, and shortly after coming out to record a few good songs. But yeah, I have no real backstory with this whole Third and James deal. I'm the newbie. You guys have been around the block a time or two.
Yeah, fresh meat, right?
Let's not use that in prison terms, but absolutely.
Well, I guess then, like, let's just dive straight into like what it's like being signed, because there's a lot of artists in Denver and all over that tour, and you guys have a lot of experience with not being signed and being musicians, and just kind of elaborate on what it's like being signed and give people insight to that.
So I guess on my side of it, Tyler kind of touched on being in the industry for 11 years. I've been in it for 8. And so we've seen a lot of the goods, the ups, the downs, the bad, and being in bars and going out and playing in front of people. There's no better thrill. And I think that this year has probably made us all realize that a little bit with everything that's going on. But my personal experience with the ups and the downs of the industry is more about teaching us as people to grow with the business sense of literally everything. How you write, how long your songs are, what those songs need to say in that short amount of time or a long amount of time, whatever that is. I honestly, I know this year's kind of got us all in a little bit of a funk. Being signed, what it means to me, I would say, is that the opportunities to grow in such a time where I was almost even just ready to step out a little bit. But being signed. I couldn't be more thankful of it, and it has nothing to do with the stigma necessarily of actually signing a record label or to record label, but just the confidence that somebody out there believes in your music, believes in your product, that you're doing the right things, that you're going out and pounding the streets, playing the shows, and selling your product to other human beings for that matter. So, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think when you're on your own, if you're unsigned, you kind of have to just figure out stuff on your own. You just kind of have to jump in and figure it out. It takes a lot of time to figure out, how to book shows and where you want to play and figuring out what songs and your show, the stage show you put together, and if you want to record, like what songs to record. And so it's a lot of just kind of guessing when you're on your own, and luckily I had a group of guys in the band that we really meshed well as a group. And so it was great to have their support. But I think the biggest thing I found with being signed is just having that team kind of behind you, with press and with social media and kind of navigating that whole world, which is in and of itself, overwhelming. Choosing songs and release dates and getting everything lined up for kind of the digital platforms and all that. So it's kind of just refreshing and helpful to have a team that, like DJ said, believes in you and believes in your craft, but then can help be kind of that support. And then I would go one step further and say, being signed to a label with, next to you guys, where we can kind of have this camaraderie and we can talk and support each other and pull each other in for shows and, openings and things like that. I think, we just I didn't have that before. So it's been a really cool experience, even with COVID and everything happening and kind of blowing up our year.
Agreed.
It's a cool little family that we have.
Yeah, I think so too. And I look up to you guys so much just because my story is a lot different than your guys' story is, because I was a little backwards where I had no experience being a musician and being an artist before being signed. And then, trying to navigate being signed and doing all the things that you guys have already been done. So I think it's really interesting to hear how the label has kind of just like, this is Josh's saying, our producer and our boss, but like adding gasoline to a fire, and like that's kind of the label's job, whereas they had to build the fire for me, and now they're like teaching me. But it's really cool to watch you guys and see how you guys kind of rose and got to the point of signing, and now me like almost back-tracing and being like, okay, what did they do? Because this is now what I have to do. So I don't know. I think,
and I think that sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I think that just speaks to that everybody's road is different. Like there's no formula for it. And so what happens to, how your process worked for you is different than what it was for me, what it was for DJ. And there's no real formula to kind of like plug in this and this and this, and this is the output you'll get. So
right.
It's just different for everybody.
Well, and everybody handles it a little bit differently too. Like, so from my perspective, I can speak for the first 3 to 4 years in the band where I was handling the band as a band and not as a business per se. And I think that at some point, everybody can relate to that, where it was, I say this often in a lot of the interviews and stuff, where, how'd you get your first gig? Well, I had a person call me up and say, what do you charge? I said, drinks for my band. I mean, like, I didn't know what to charge. It's a different learning process for everybody. Somebody makes up the fact that they actually want to be in a band and they go and start a band, you know, you may go out and charge $200-300 for your first gig. I know people that have started a band and come out and opened up for us and played a show for $1,000 for their first night. Like there's a lot of things, I think, though, that when you really settle down in the roots that you don't want to take for granted, and that's what makes an artist. And the three of us, to be honest, I mean, there's and so many more. I'm not cutting out anybody, but we're here, obviously. I think the three of us, when you really kind of look at the meat and taters of the situation, there's all humble beginnings, no matter where you started, and that's ultimately, I think, what anybody's looking for in this world. You want somebody to speaking the truth to you, and that understands that, hey, we can be your fan and your friend, or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
It's a long journey, no matter how you want to look at it, no matter what your process is, in order to get to a point where you're signed with, I mean, one of the thriving, and Josh would agree with me if we said this, but one of the thriving, not major labels, but they're doing their part. They're busting their posteriors when it comes to making sure that everybody, not just the three of us, but everybody underneath that label is progressive.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
to mention them, I mean, we're more of the countryside of Third and James,
Yep.
you know, but we have a full roster of all different types of music. I mean, Ollie McCracken, who's, you know, I don't even know what to call him because he's just everything amazing.
He's like an acoustic Keith Urban.
Yes.
Americana. That's what I'm gonna go with.
And then there's Dream Feed, who's just full on rock. Same with Gestalt. They're like, I don't even know what they are. They're just so crazy and awesome. Foxfield, who's more the pop realm. Madeline, who's a duo, who is also like Americana. That they're just amazing. I think that there's 8 of us, 8 groups, 8 people, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, each artist, I think, is dealt with different and within each genre even. But the label does a really good job of making sure that we're all prepared and that we all have the tools we need to succeed. And then I think for me personally, it's like, okay, well, what are they going to do with these tools to succeed? We've given them all they need. Now let's see them grow. So I think it's really cool how they do that. I think it's really cool how Third and James puts us through artist development, even if, you know, you two have been developing as artists for 8 years, 10 plus years, whatever. But still is like, okay, well, your way is great. Here's a different way that might help you.
Yeah.
So
I think Tyler would agree with me on this too, is that the new artist development isn't necessarily speaking from anything insulting to me.
Mm-mm.
Like there's a lot that has changed. I can see vocally in my lyrics, the writing and everything else that has changed just since the Third and James deal has been on board. Like, I'm not going to say that I didn't have a few good songs before to that, or what I viewed as good songs, but the new artist development, I don't think it has anything to do with how long you've been in the industry. It's more of that new artist. What can we do to develop that? If that makes any sense. I think you would agree, Tyler. I've seen a change, and I guess me personally, I've seen a change in your music for the better, you know, and not saying that anything previous to that was negative. Or Kayla, we talked before we got on this meeting about your songs previous to and how they're progressing or how they're growing, and your career and how that's changing too. I think that's the same thing. New artist development. New doesn't mean anything. It's just artist development.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you push back on any sort of development, then, you know, what's the point? Because I think every artist continues to progress, continues to develop, continues to kind of hone their craft. And that's really all I think it is just continuing to polish what it is you do. And no, I would agree. I think production wise and song selection, that has all kind of, the bar has been raised as far as what we were doing previously. And I've recorded in, Nashville a couple times, and I think what I've released on the Third and James label is, head and shoulders what better than what production wise, and just, kind of what I'm really wanting to be as an artist. It kind of hits the mark a little bit better.
Well, actually, now that you say that is the one thing that, I remember having the conversation with Josh when the first time that I ever met him. And the thing that I said was, don't try to redress me. And I didn't mean that from the sense that I wear a sleeveless shirt on stage and do whatever else. I meant it as a whole, is don't try to redress me. And I think the one thing that is really cool about Third and James is that, as you guys know, we have 100% control of the creative freedom. So yes, they have a lot of good ideas, and they're going to throw 8 turns at that idea at us when we're recording it. But ultimately, we have that control over, hey, this is what I want my song to sound like. Yes, I like it. No, I don't like this, whatever it may be. So redressing any of us artists for that sense, instead of doing that, I think they're really honing what our talents are. And I mean, no matter what it is, Kayla, you said it. I mean, going from the other artists here they're rock or Americana or whatever it is, they have a really good feel of the sense of people that we are, and try to guide us in that direction. And honestly, there's very little feedback so far on my behalf as far as, no, that's not how I don't want to sound. I think they just really have a good grasp on the artist.
Yeah. And I think too, and maybe this is more me like developing just like my whole career through Third and James, but I think they really want to make sure that we trace or stay true to ourselves too. I mean, there's musical integrity that they try to keep, but there's also personal integrity that they're very like interested in and they value. And like when I was trying to brand and like try to figure out who I am and set up my social media to reflect who I am, it took weeks to like go through all of that, because they wanted to make sure that, one, I knew who I wanted to be and who I wanted to reflect myself as, but also they wanted to make sure that 6 months down the road, I was going to be happy with the choice that I made, and then be able to market that and advertise that and just make sure that it's still like us, So
Right.
Yeah.
I think they do a really good job of not only like making our music us and taking our opinions like in and making sure that our songs are what we want them to be, but also that we stay good people and we reflect that too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's really cool, and Josh is awesome. The whole team there is awesome, and I don't know about. I mean, I think I'm speaking for all of us when I say we love them and we appreciate
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's cool to talk about like how we all like kind of started and where we are now, and we touched on it a little bit, but just how COVID has really affected musicians. Because I mean, I know that I get a lot of questions like, how is this affecting you, and how's this taking a toll on music, because you guys are releasing music still and you're still able to be in the studio, so what's different? And I think people have like genuine questions about that, so maybe we could take a little bit of time to reflect on that as well.
Well, if the question is what's different, or what has this year been like, I mean, everything's different. Everything is, we had a pretty big year lined up, and some good shows, some fun shows, big shows that we were excited about that obviously did not happen. We were going to play Greeley Stampede. We were going to play up at Frontier Days in Cheyenne. So all of that obviously is eliminated. So I think I've tried to do some streaming shows and little things like, that everybody kind of jumped on. I think it got really saturated really, really fast as far as how everybody was doing, these streaming shows. So that kind of then I felt wasn't as special anymore. But so yeah, I mean, it's just constantly trying to figure out how to stay in front of people. And, luckily we are on a label that has survived the pandemic and has survived shutdowns, and we have been able to, still release music, which I think is the only thing that has really kept things going for me anyway. And obviously I've tried to write a lot more and spend time with my band as far as trying to continue to polish our show and kind of refresh what we're doing, so that when things kind of open back up, we can kind of hit the ground running, and we have kind of a show in place with new songs and new material and a new, presence. But yeah, I mean, it's been frustrating. It's because I know you guys are the same, but I love being out and performing and being on stage. And so that obviously takes a huge chunk out of kind of your identity as an artist. So it's been tough. It's been frustrating, but we're still here.
Undoubtedly.
DJ, what do you got to add?
I was waiting for Kayla to step in there. But...
Okay, I can go. I mean, I think that it's been weird because especially when we were like in quarantine and like actually like shut down for however long we were, like we weren't in the studio, we weren't meeting. So all of the free time we had, like, or at least for me, I was writing, I was trying to make sure all the socials were up. And like you said, like live streams only go so far because, everyone started doing them. And it was hard doing that with not being able to be around like my band or anything like that, which probably means I should learn how to accompany myself better. But it's just, it has been weird. And like, I remember when I was telling Josh, I told him, I want to release music. Like, this is such a good time. And streaming services were actually down because people were just watching TV or, doing whatever. So they weren't listening to music as much as they would be if they were driving somewhere or if they were at a party or whatever. So it was hard navigating that for sure. And then on top of it, this was kind of going to be like my breakout year because I had been in development for 2 years and this is my third year, and I was ready to hit the road and get some travel under my belt and do some shows out of state and all those things. And luckily, I was able to come out to Nebraska. Tyler came with me for one of the shows, and I played with DJ, which was exciting. But then, following month, our show got canceled because of COVID again. So that's hard. And then, I mean, for a lot of people, music is like a big source of income for us and for the label and everything. So not having that has been difficult too. And thankfully there's like artist relief funds that really like stepped up and helped out artists that were in need and needed checks for rent or whatever if that was their only form of income. But it's just been weird, and working remotely and not with your people has been hard. But I don't know, we'll get through it. I believe in us.
Yeah, so obviously COVID's hit us a little bit differently out here than what it has with you. And so there's one thing that I can say about all three of us in particular in this conversation of having a breakout year. And this is even previous to Third and James. I would assume, Tyler, that you could probably think the same thing, but even with what Kayla has said like everything for at least us. I know Tyler, you had mentioned with you too, and regardless of the Third and James deal, things were looking for a breakout year. Same thing with us. I mean, we had shows with Joe Diffie, passed away from coronavirus. Mark Crow, Casey Donahue, Logan Mize. I mean, like we had literally our year was. I mean, it was shaping up to be our breakout year. And then Third and James happened, which made it that much better. The only thing with coronavirus, and you guys know this, I mean, I try to go out and play at least once, if not twice a week. Now, I said this last night, you got to get like really creative with how it's going to go. 2 nights ago, I was in Oklahoma playing a show in Manchester, Oklahoma. And we were supposed to play the next night about an hour and a half from there. The next morning we wake up for breakfast, sitting in Harper, Kansas, and the show got canceled. And we called a whole bunch of different places to try to find out one more show that we can play. And we finally, about 3 or 4 hours later, got a hold of a venue that we could go play. That's the story of 2020. Like it's one of those deals you can't give up on, because you want to go out and you got to play and you make those calls. And the difference between this year and with coronavirus and any other year is it would have taken me one phone call to land a show that we could have went and replaced that show with in a matter of hours, no questions asked. This year you got to make 8 or 9 or 10 or 15 phone calls or whatever that amount is in order to make sure that you have that show replaced. And it may not even be replaced at the full amount, which is nothing to do with the venues. The venues, I think, are all on our side. We're all trying to make it work. And it's been really tough. So Kayla, you touched on the being the major source of income. I mean, I have a day job still.
Right.
But music is 2/3 of my income, at least. And so it does. I mean, I can't imagine with obviously where you guys are at and where your shows are standing that it's any easier. I feel bad complaining on my behalf, but it's tough. I mean, there's no other words to describe it. Like you keep fighting. You wonder, well, is it ever going to end? And I really thought we were getting close, obviously, when we got to the end of the summer and everything kind of started lighting up. We played a few outside shows, and then all of a sudden it comes back to bite you again. And I mean, I don't know. I'm just thankful to have the family and the support that we do kind of behind us. And that doesn't go just to the label, that goes to you guys too. I mean, we can get you guys out to do shows or vice versa. I can come play with you guys. Absolutely. I just want to go out and make music. I don't even know if anything this year has taught me is I don't even know if I so much care about the dollar amount anymore as what I just love to do and go out and get it done and show those feelings that I put into 4 chords to, to some people that are going to understand it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting too, just like how different states can affect the career too a little bit. I mean, when like Colorado is almost completely shut down, like the live music scene is not a thing right now. And that's just because everyone's trying to be safe. And that's nothing on anybody other than just safety. Whereas like in Nebraska, I think they were a little later to like start shutting down completely or canceling shows or whatever. But I mean, it's just interesting to see us 3, where 2 of us are from Colorado trying to navigate it, and then you're from Nebraska trying to navigate it in a completely different way. I mean, even if they're not shut down, it's still limited numbers or X, Y, and Z, and then bars are having to pay us less because they can't get people through the door like they used to. So I don't know. It's just been a weird year, and like already trying to navigate being a musician, I think for me is like you're learning constantly. Like you're always having to be on your feet, and then throw a pandemic in there, and it's like, what the hell is happening?
Anything's going to change is our preparation for literally everything after this, I think. I mean, if we ever get back to some sense of normalcy out of it. But yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, we go from, like I said, playing 120 shows a year to this year being a question and being shut down most of the year to playing 50 or 60. You just have to find a way around it. And that doesn't mean that you're going to go out and make the same money that you did before, play for the same crowds that you did before. And that's where I think we're at with the whole Third and James deal, is at least they've provided us with the opportunity to put our music out there in front of thousands of people in order to advance our careers even through the pandemic. So
yeah, for sure.
I think that if anything, and I mean, I bet this is true for anybody dealing with this pandemic or going, handling it or whatever, but, you see the people who want to fight through it and make sure that we're still doing our stuff. But, like I had to learn how to be a fighter, and like make things happen with massive obstacles blocking, and if anything, I think that is a positive that I've taken out of this year, whether it's about the music or not, is that, all right, well, the world just threw a global pandemic at us. How are we going to still do what we do just within the restrictions? So it's very interesting that you shed light to that. And I think that the people watching this will enjoy that too, because it's relatable to anything. I mean, any worker, healthcare provider.
Something to touch on too, and like Kayla, like I know you've been in quarantine before. Tyler, I don't know as you have, but I know that you got tested at least, whatever it may be. Like the one thing that I think is getting misconstrued, and so this is very valuable, at least I feel, is that the musicians don't care, that they just gonna go out and they just want to play their shows and put everybody and make them unsafe and do whatever else. That's not the case. I think what a lot of people don't realize though is that, the term essential workers, when it comes to straight across the board, if you work at a grocery store, or you're a nurse, or a doctor, or a race car driver, everybody out there, their career path is essential to them. It isn't that we don't know that we can go out and build fence for some farmer and get through the pandemic and stay safe and stay away from people. There's some sort of mental stability that comes along with the fact that this is what we chose as a career. And so it may not be in everybody's best interest. And I completely understand that. And that's why I always say, if you don't feel comfortable coming out in public, don't. Stay home.
Right.
But for those that do, this is our path. This is our chosen career. This is our essential. I have to keep a roof over my kid's head, or whatever it may be. This is our love. This is our serenity, our mental stability. Yet we're constantly like, I can't believe you're having live music there, and why would you do that? It's not with intent to make anybody sick or whatever the case may be. It's just us. And so if you don't feel safe, I don't think anybody would disagree with you on this particular interview. If you don't feel safe, don't come out, but at least help us allow the opportunity to go out and grow our businesses.
And I mean, I think that there's something to say about, even if we are playing shows, especially in Denver or Colorado or whatever, like we're still practicing safety even at the shows. And there's limited people, and there's masks, and there's all the things that have been instructed for us to do, and there's still a way to do it. So obviously, like, we care about the people that follow us. We love our followers. We love the people that listen to our music, and we want them to be safe and healthy and all the things. So yes, we go out every once in a while during this to play music, but we're also practicing and playing it safe.
I was just going to say, I think the biggest thing though that we probably will take away from this year is just how much we've learned, how much we love playing and music and,
crowds
doing
for 100 or 1,000.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like we just love playing and writing and being able to perform songs that we've written. And it's so yeah, I'm anxious to play again, and hopefully, things will be different in the world of COVID. And if they're not, then social distancing and masks in place. And but if it's 5 people or 500, it's I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure it'll come, hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah.
I think my favorite quote that saying I've heard from this pandemic is, the bigger the shit pile, the bigger the horse. So
Did you just cuss, Kayla?
I'm gonna have to
Uh-oh.
explicit on this video.
This is like going on. Are you okay?
I'm sorry. And
Just making sure you're all right. Been hanging out with DJ Bridwell too much.
Bad influence.
Right. But seriously, like it's a funny and weird analogy, but like we are in the midst of that big pile of poop. But I'm just waiting for that big horse on the other side of it, which I don't know. I mean, it's gonna come eventually.
It will.
When that does, all 3 of us are gonna jump on the bus and we're gonna go tour the world. So
I honestly cannot wait to even just attend one of your guys' shows, like a full-on show,
Full-on show.
Like
yeah.
Quarantine special. Like, I just want to show up, want to watch Tyler Walker at the Stampede, Kayla Ruby on the CMAs, because we all know you're going there first. And yeah, I can't wait.
Well, I'm very excited, and I'm sure that once this is all over and you're in town or we're in Nebraska or whatever, we're gonna have to do something. And
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Seriously, it's been awesome. At least being able to see your faces, even though they're like 1.5-inch versions of themselves.
I know.
Well, thank you for
thanks. Yeah, thanks for setting this up, Kayla. Appreciate you including us.
Of course. And I guess I'll see you guys when I see you guys. Yeah. Okay. Well,
all right.
have a good rest
Good
of
seeing
your
you.
Yeah. See you guys. Bye.